All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to the Iron Life podcast. It's been, I think, since April was the last time I recorded my last episode. We had Darwin Diaz on, and it's been a while. And for those of you that follow me online, you may know that Gab was about 9 months pregnant for the month of May, so it was a lot of doctor's appointments and back and forth and all that stuff. And then May 28th, Christopher Jax Tutela was born, little CJ. So the last 3 weeks have been honestly the most amazing of my life, but also the most hectic when it comes to work. And, you know, I felt like the last few weeks, I just said, I want to be present. I want to be able to be here. I don't want to miss anything. I was just talking to a few people about this, how it goes so fast when they're an infant, and I'm sure even just through adolescence until they're grown up. But it's already gone so fast, and I said, you know what, I just want to take the time and be present for everything. I know this is going to fly by, and I just want to enjoy the time with my family and really embrace these moments. So I took several weeks off of the podcast, so I apologize to all of you listeners out there wondering where the hell I've been and when the next show was going to drop. The good news is that the show is dropping today. We're back, and I'm excited to be here. I'm really fired up for today's episode. And, you know, with the birth of my son, it had me thinking a lot lately about how I got here and some things that have occurred in my life along the way. And I did some reflecting like I normally do once a week, little sidebar. I always put time aside for reflection and journaling and just, you know, thinking about what has gotten me here, the things that I want to do next and all that good stuff. And I wanted to share this story with you guys because this came up the other day when I was sitting there on my balcony having my morning coffee and doing my little reflection period. But it's a story about when I was 15 years old. And keep in mind that I started drinking alcohol and smoking weed when I was about 12 years old. I know, that's fucking young. But that was the path that I was on. And when we were kids, a bunch of my friends and I would wait outside of liquor stores, and we would just find like the sketchiest people we could find. And we'd be like, hey, bro, if we give you, an extra $5 a piece, would you mind getting us alcohol? And oftentimes they would say yes. Believe it or not, there's people out there that are totally cool with buying a bunch of 12-year-olds alcohol that wait outside of liquor stores. So that's how we would get our liquor most of the time. And this particular story that I want to share with you is when I was about 14 or 15, something like that. I was at this party, right? And there was a bunch of older people there, and you're 15, they're 17, you're trying to show off a little bit, you're trying to be cool, you're trying to fit in. So first off, I remember that night drinking way more than I should have. Oh, well, I really shouldn't be drinking at all, right? 15 years old. But anyway, drinking like a flask of Smirnoff vodka. If you could imagine that, Smirnoff vodka, like the cheapest shit you could find, right? And then trying to impress these older chicks that were there, I told them, hey, I could get some weed. And they were like, go get it. So I got it. And on top of being absolutely shit-faced, we all smoked weed together. And I wanted to show them how cool I was. So I smoked more weed that night than I probably ever did up until that point, right? So at first, you feel like the man. You just got these chicks weed, you're drinking with them, you're partying with them. You're praying for just a chance, just an opening at 15. If you could score with one of the 17-year-old girls, how cool you'll be. So anyway, once we smoked, after about 5 minutes, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And all of a sudden, I start hearing my heartbeat. Every single beat, I'm just hearing boom, boom, Now it's getting faster, getting a little faster. It's getting a little louder. Now I'm in panic mode. What the fuck is that? So now we go from having fun to me looking at these girls and saying, oh shit, I could hear my heart beating. And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? And they start laughing at me. And now I'm starting to really freak out. I'm like, I just got to get back to the party where my friends were. Or at least I thought. I get back to the party. All of my close friends, my real friends, are gone. Oh shit, I'm by myself. So now I'm really starting to panic a little bit. I'm here, I'm alone. The only people that are here, these older people, and there's no way that I could tell them that I'm freaking out because I smoked weed, because that just ain't cool. So now I'm wondering what the hell I could do or should do. Now, keep in mind, I didn't have a cell phone at this point. It's not like I could call my buddies up and be like, where are you at? I was 15, so this is what, 2002-ish, something like that? 2003 maybe? So I did what anybody else in their right mind would do. I locked myself in the bathroom at this party. So now I'm here in the bathroom, like hoping nobody's going to come to the door. And of course, the word gets out that Chris is freaking out and he's in the bathroom and he's panicking. And I think he smoked too much weed. Now I hear these voices behind the door and I'm like, fuck, what am I going to do? I thought about jumping out the window, but I was on the second floor and I figured that would be a bad idea. My heart's pounding. I'm sweating. Keep in mind, I'm still drunk, right? I'm wasted. So it was just a friggin' nightmare. Now, for any of you guys who have listened to this show before, you follow me, you know the story. You know that my brother passed away of a drug overdose in February of 2022. Now, I know that if this situation didn't occur in my life, that I may have very well been on the same exact path as my brother and drug addiction, because this was my life. I mean, like I said, I started drinking, smoking pot when I was 12 years old, right? And so fast forward back to this party now, or rewind back to the party. I'm freaking out. Long story short, I didn't die. My brother's girlfriend at the time happened to be there because she was a couple years older than me, and she saved the day. She ended up calling my brother, who picked me up. I remember him coming in, and I was like laying down on the toilet, and he picked me up, threw me over his shoulder, and walked me out the door into his car in front of everybody. Everybody was like applauding as he was carrying me out. And I just remember waking up the next day absolutely humiliated. Like, imagine that. You're in front of all these older kids. You're trying to be cool. You're trying to fit in. And you completely humiliate yourself. And it feels like the entire school knew about this once Monday rolled around. I mean, I don't know if they did or if they didn't. Definitely the people at the party, they knew about it, and there was still a little bit of chatter, so it was definitely embarrassing. But the reason that I shared this with you, and the reason I was reflecting on this, is for this reason, right? Because that moment in time, 15-year-old me, it was the most humiliating and embarrassing moment of my entire life up until that point, for what I can remember. And that is a painful experience. So, because of that moment, though, I was never able to really smoke pot again, because anytime I try to smoke pot after that day, I started getting super paranoid, or I that feeling would come back right away, and I was terrified of it. And I'm like, dude, I'm never doing this again. I am fucking done smoking weed. All right. Now, fast forward a year, 2 years, 3 years after that, harder drugs started to hit the scene, especially opioids, coke. Really, those two things were the main things, Percocets and coke. And a lot of my friends that I was drinking and smoking weed with in my early days got into that. They started dabbling with Percocets. As you know, my brother got hooked on that stuff too. And I know that I would have absolutely gotten wrapped up in the same shit if it weren't for that moment. The only reason I didn't try those other drugs was because I was afraid that I would get paranoid and, I'd hear my heart pounding and I would have to go through that and relive that moment again. And so I never did. I never got into it. And, I've had very close friends of mine pass away. My brother passed away. I've had other friends that get really wrapped up in this stuff and lose a bunch of money and go into debt. And luckily they got themselves clean. But man, who knows where I would be if it weren't for that moment in time that I look back at and trying to relive it, knowing how humiliated I was, but looking at the bigger picture, what that actually created for me in my life. It may have been the thing that led me down the path of a life-saving path, right? So I share that with you because maybe right now there's something you're going through in your life. Maybe it's a divorce. Maybe you just got laid off. Maybe you lost your job. Whatever the hell it is. And you're wondering, how the fuck am I going to get through this? This is so painful. What am I going to do next? But what I encourage you to do is take a deep breath and think about what this could actually lead to. Maybe it's a new opportunity. Maybe it's a new, better relationship. Maybe it's a new, better career. Maybe it's more time for your family. Maybe it's more time to start the business you've always wanted to start. So instead of stressing about the pain of the experience, changing your mindset around what just happened and realizing that this could be the best thing that has ever happened to you or ever happened for you. And maybe this is going to create such new opportunities in your life. Maybe it will. Maybe it will. I think that it's up to you to make of it what you may. But that can only be done by you, right? And using my situation as an example, the most humiliating moment of my life may have actually saved my life. The most painful moment at that time may have actually saved my life. So for what that's worth for you guys, that's how I wanted to start today's show, because that was part of my reflection this week, and just thought I'd share that with you in hopes to inspire you, because I know that, listen, once in a while life feeds us a shit sandwich, and it's up to us to turn chicken shit into chicken salad, as my friend Bedros Keuilian likes to say. So with that being said, that's not all that I want to talk to you guys about today. I'm excited. I got notes for this episode. So what I want to share with you guys today are about 20, I think it's, you know what, I added a few to this list. So originally it was 19 ways to enhance your health. It might be 20 or 21 at this point, because usually when I spend a little bit of time thinking about the topic that I want to talk about, I come up with another 1 or 2 or 3 ideas, and I think I just plug them into my notes here. So I don't know how many fucking ideas I have for you or how many ways to enhance your health, but it's somewhere around 20. So either way, I don't think you guys really give a shit. So let me get rolling here. So number 1. Number 1, if you want to enhance your health, then you're going to eat organic. You're going to eat organic grass-fed beef, organic free-range chicken or free-range turkey, and wild-caught fish, okay? You don't want to eat garbage food, so make sure that most of the food that you consume, especially the stuff that you're cooking at home, is organic. And honestly, yes, because I've gotten this question before. Does it really make a difference to eat grass-fed, free-range, wild-caught? Yes, it does, because of what those animals are fed, because of the hormones and antibiotics that animals that are not grass-fed or free-range are pumped with. You want to avoid all that shit. So if you want to enhance your health, organic food, grass-fed beef, free-range chicken and turkey, wild-caught fish. Organic should be across the board, however. All right, so keep that in mind. Now, another thing is to use a natural deodorant. If you don't know this, a lot of deodorants are loaded with aluminum, they're loaded with parabens, and they're loaded with other chemicals that are known as EDCs, or endocrine disrupting chemicals. So we want to avoid those at all costs. And they come in some other products too, which I'll talk about in a moment here. And by the way, when I'm rattling off this list, you may not be able to make every single change overnight. So you start with one thing. and you get comfortable with that one thing, and then you add the next thing. And then you just build upon it. So don't let this overwhelm you. What I want you to do is just figure out a way that you can methodically attack this list and start incorporating this stuff into your life. All right, so you're going to use a natural deodorant. We want to get aluminum out of there. We want to get parabens out of there. All right, so that's a good start. Now, one that I recommend, because some natural deodorants without aluminum and all that other crap, because you might be thinking, I've tried those natural ones and it left me smelling like absolute dog shit. I don't want you to smell like dog shit. I want you to smell pretty. So what I want you to do is check out, oh my God, now the name is escaping me. Give me a second. It'll come. Bravo Sierra. Bravo Sierra. I have nothing to do with this company. They don't pay me shit. It's just a product that I started using because a friend of mine worked for the company a few years back, and I love their natural deodorant. So Bravo Sierra. They may have a few different types of deodorant now. I don't even know which one I use, to be completely honest. I got a few free samples, and I've been using them, and I just reordered that one, so I forget what it's called. But you'll find it. I believe they're all probably comparable, but that's a good one. Next up, stop eating corn and soy. Now, the reason I want you to stop eating corn and soy is probably a different reason than you may think. See, corn and soy are both heavily treated with a chemical called glyphosate. Glyphosate is Roundup, right? So it's used as a weed killer, essentially, right? It's also used to dry out other products. Now, corn and soy products are the most heavily treated crops with glyphosate. So you want to avoid those. Even any corn that's grown in the United States, even if it says organic, you want to avoid corn. And I know that sucks, especially in the summertime. Corn on the cob is delicious, but we want to avoid it, all right, as much as you can. Some other products that contain glyphosate are chickpeas and oats, right? So this kind of goes into the category, I've talked about this several episodes ago, where we talked about healthy foods that could become unhealthy for whatever reason. So oatmeal is a healthy food, so to speak. Chickpeas could be a healthy food, so to speak. However, not if they're treated with glyphosate. Now, here's the kicker, guys. Even organic oats could still contain trace levels of glyphosate, and these companies will say, well, they're safe to consume because it's only X amount. I don't want any fucking levels of glyphosate. All right, I want to do the best that I can to get this shit out of my system entirely. So even the brands that are USDA organic, even though the oats themselves are not treated with glyphosate, there is still runoff contaminants on these products. So I want you to be mindful of that. One of the top brands, apparently, I don't know anything about this. Like, I didn't go and fucking bust out my lab and my chemistry set and start testing these oats. But from what I've understand, there is a company that has zero glyphosate and zero runoff, and that's Backroads Oats. And that can be found at Whole Foods. You could order it online. Don't hold me to that. Again, I don't know. I'm not there testing the levels. I'm just sharing with you information that I came across and that I read. So you could do your own research. But Backroads Oats apparently have zero glyphosate. So check them out. To the same point, you want to drink organic coffee. That's our next one. Drink organic coffee. Coffee is one of the most heavily sprayed crops that there is. Herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, okay? All of this shit is in your coffee. So if you are a coffee drinker like I am, I'm having a cup of some organic cold brew as we speak right now, but if you are a coffee drinker, then it's really important that you get rid of the standard brands, you get rid of standard coffee that's not organic, and you get yourself a good quality organic brand coffee, all right? Next up, use the microwave as little as possible, if not at all, right? Let's try to cut out on the microwave. And I think that one is pretty straightforward, so we'll leave it at that. But you try to heat up your food in a pan, heat up your food. If you have an air fryer or in an oven, that's the best way to do it, okay? Try to use the microwave as little as possible. Next up, you want to stop using plastics. Now, many of you may have heard about BPAs, which are obviously a problem. But another big thing that is becoming more and more popular are something called phthalates. Okay, so phthalates is another chemical within plastics, and it's been shown. There's so many studies on this. I forget the name of the book. Dr. Shanda something wrote a book on this, and I don't know the name of the book, so I apologize. But if you could probably Google it. But anyway, phthalates are known for causing reproductive harm. All right, and it's shown to affect the reproductive system of children's. Penis sizes are getting smaller, testicles are getting smaller, the taint is getting smaller, and I know that might sound funny because I said taint, haha. However, these phthalates are causing a lot of issues. All right, so we want to avoid plastics. There are certain plastics that these phthalates are in. And to be honest, I have to do more research on the topic. But if you just do a Google search, look up phthalates. That's PHTHALATES. You could probably come across the plastics that are heavy in phthalates. Now, these phthalates aren't just in the plastics like water bottles and stuff like that, but just like parabens, these phthalates are also found in skincare products, deodorants, and things like that. So you have to really make sure that you are removing this stuff by using natural soaps, natural shampoos, natural lotion, natural body washes. Yes, this stuff is more expensive, but just like you're buying organic grass-fed beef, it's more expensive than shit beef, where these cows were brutally slaughtered, pumped with antibiotics, pumped with hormones. So the quality of what you're getting is much greater if you get a natural brand. All right, so super important there. Now, next up, your water could be a problem. Let me explain. So we know that in your drinking water, in our drinking water, there are a lot of contaminants, chlorine, heavy metals, and stuff like that. And certain filters like Brita water filters, they do remove a lot of those contaminants, especially the chlorine and some metals. All right, which is important, right? However, one thing you may not know is the level of pharmaceutical drugs that are in our drinking water, okay? Why do you think that is? Most people that are done with their pharmaceuticals flush it down the toilet. The filtration systems don't remove all of those pharmaceutical drugs, so we are getting traces of so many different drugs in our drinking water. So if you are going to be drinking, you never just want to drink straight up tap water, right? Hopefully you're not doing that. Now, the downside of drinking out of plastics is because of the BPA and possibly the phthalates. So, what do we do? Right? So one of the best things that you can do is get a reverse osmosis filtration system. Now, there are more expensive ones that you could get connected right to your plumbing. But if you rent, or if that's just outside of your budget, then there are over-the-counter ones, or there are countertop ones rather, that you can get, and you could use these filtration systems. Now, again, I'm not a chemist. I'm not there testing the water. However, I do know that this is a way better option than like a Brita water filter or something like that, and that they do a pretty damn good job. And I would imagine that the one that you connect to your plumbing is probably the best route, but the countertop ones are definitely probably the next viable option, right? So just keep that in mind. Yeah. And also, if you're going to then, use a system like that and bring water with you, get yourself a stainless steel water bottle, BPA free, and you could bring that with you wherever you go. All right. Make it easy. So you don't have to drink out of plastic, and you get something there that you could bring around with you and make life easy. So anyway, here's another thing. If you want to enhance your health, use salt, right? Sea salt is one of the better salts that you can use. You don't want to use regular table salt because sea salt will contain more trace minerals. Most of us are deficient in these trace minerals, especially for active folks like you. If you do martial arts, if you train, if you hike, if you do yoga, whatever you do, if you're sweating, you're losing a lot of these minerals, and there's a good chance that you have some type of mineral deficiency. So sprinkling sea salt into your water, sprinkling sea salt onto your foods could help replenish a lot of these trace minerals that we lose and a lot of these minerals that we are deficient in. So don't be afraid of salt. I know from old research, a lot of people are terrified of using salt because they think it's going to raise their blood pressure. That does not cause long-term blood pressure increases. Again, if you have high blood pressure, you might want to consult your doctor before supplementing with salt. So always be safe if you do have high blood pressure, if you're on medications. But just consider the electrolytes and the minerals that are in salt, and that how much losing those minerals and the deficiencies could cause more harm than you sprinkling a little bit of salt onto your food or into your water. But again, if you have high blood pressure, consult your physician for sure. All right. Another thing, if you want to enhance your health, enhance your gut health, the immune system starts in the gut. The gut is responsible for so much of our overall health, especially our mental health, right? Because of the blood-brain barrier, because leaky gut syndrome can affect our levels of serotonin. It could affect our levels of dopamine. So you have to make sure that you are building up a strong gut health, right? A strong level of health in your gut. Now, there are certain ways that you can do that. Now, number one, you got to stop eating shit, right? If you cut out sugar, if you cut out these inflammatory foods, you cut out refined flour, we get rid of all the garbage, that's one step. But then we also have to figure out ways to enhance the lining of our gut, right? So foods that contain collagen, glutamine is a supplement that could help with that as well. But we want to make sure that we're also getting some prebiotic fiber in there. That's the food that the good bacteria, the probiotics, eat. You want to get some probiotics in through your diet, sauerkraut, kimchi, pickles, things like that. And then you could also supplement with a good probiotic supplement. But those are some things that you can do. Bone broth is a good option as well for gut health. But again, we got to get the crap out of your diet first, and then we can add those other things to enhance your gut health overall. And so again, the health of your gut plays such a major role in the health and function and strength of your immune system, but also your mental health as well. All right, so super important stuff there. Next thing, if you want to enhance your health, get to bed and wake up at the same time 7 days per week. All right, because that is what's going to lead to better quality sleep. That's what's going to get your circadian rhythm dialed in, and getting to bed and waking up at the same time is going to keep that consistency, which is so important for your overall health, so important for better quality sleep. So don't worry about partying and staying up late on the weekends. Get to bed earlier, wake up at the same time, and your health will be in a much better place. Next on the list, get sunlight every single day. Most people are deficient in vitamin D. Spend more time outside. That is known to reduce cortisol levels in the blood, but also the sunlight, especially first thing in the morning. We're back to the circadian rhythm. When you get up, get outside, get exposed to sunlight. Look towards the sun. No sunglasses, no hat, as little clothing as possible. If you're in warm weather, you can take your shirt off. Absorb as much sunlight on the skin, on your face, in your eyes as possible. All right? Super important for vitamin D production, super important for overall health. And again, like I said, reducing cortisol levels in the blood, so that could reduce your level of stress. So just so many benefits there. Spend more time outside. Next up, Get cold every day. I can't recommend this enough. Taking a cold shower daily. If for nothing else, okay, forget about health for a second. If for nothing else, getting cold every day will help develop this mental grit, mental toughness, an ability to do the hard shit that you really don't want to do. And then all of a sudden that bleeds over into other areas of your life. Force yourself to get uncomfortable. But from a health perspective, we know that after cold exposure, okay, so there's a few different things here, right? We know that after cold exposure, our dopamine and serotonin levels rise. Okay, so even if that's temporary, okay, and temporary might mean a couple of hours. I don't know how long it actually lasts. But that's still a positive thing. That's not going to hurt you, that's for sure. If you feel a little bit happier, you feel a little bit better temporarily. So cold exposure is going to raise those hormones, okay? Or those what do we call them? I'm drawing a blank. It's my first day back here, guys. Those anyway, you know what the fuck I'm talking about. So so the other thing is that cold is a hormetic stressor. And so since we are exposing ourselves to this type of stressor, it helps us become more adapted to the stress that we face in day-to-day life, the psychological stress, right? Just like exercising is a hormetic stress, right? So when you expose yourself to cold, it helps you become more resilient when it comes to the psychological stress. It helps us handle it better, for lack of a better term. Okay, so get yourself cold. It's going to help you. And do that every single day. Make it a habit. If you could do a cold plunge, if you could jump into the ocean if you live near an ocean, if you could just take a friggin' cold shower, but just get yourself cold, right? Cryotherapy is another option. Next on the list here, to enhance your health, take an omega-3 fish oil supplement. Most people consume way more omega-6s, which are pro-inflammatory, versus omega-3s within their diet. Omega-3s are anti-inflammatory. This inflammation could cause a lot of health problems long-term, especially when in the standard American diet, those numbers are so out of whack. There's such a greater amount of omega-6s than omega-3s. So an omega-3 supplement's one of those supplements where most people will benefit from. So taking an omega-3 supplement, but here's the thing. You don't want just any piece of shit fish oil. Most fish oil contain metals. So we want to make sure that it's a purified fish oil. One of the best brands that you can get over the counter are Nordic Naturals. Okay, Nordic Naturals is the company. Nordic Naturals, omega-3, that's one of the best ones that you can get. Next up, cut out industrial seed oils. That's your corn oil, your canola oil, your vegetable oil. All of those industrial seed oils are causing inflammation. They're causing a ton of health problems. Cut that garbage out. You know the oils that you're going to cook with at home: extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil. Most restaurants won't cook with those oils. So the less you go out to eat, it's probably better. But you do the best that you can, okay? That's also something to consider. Like a lot of processed foods, they're garbage to begin with, but they're adding these oils to these foods. So you're going to be consuming a way higher amount of these industrial seed oils if you're eating processed foods, or if you're going to a burger joint, or if you're going to a diner and you're, getting some wacky beef, whatever, right? If you're getting French fries. These oils are very detrimental to your health. They're causing a ton of inflammation, so we want to get them out of your diet. Next up, I talked about this earlier, cut out sugar and flour, but also you want to get out artificial dyes, artificial sweeteners. These things are loaded with chemicals, and they're found in a lot of pre-workouts, diet soda, diet juices, sugar-free this, sugar-free that. We want to get that shit out, okay? So cut out the dyes, cut out the sweeteners. You don't need it. It's not helping you, and it's detrimental to your health. So let's get that out. Next up, you want to use a stainless steel or cast iron pan. A lot of those pans that are made from aluminum. There's a lot of toxic coatings and that non-stick coating that they put on those pans. Yes, I know it's convenient, especially when you make eggs. However, all that shit is ending up in your food and you're ingesting that. So use a cast iron pan or use a stainless steel pan. Next up, we talked about mental health earlier. Doing 5 minutes of deep breathing and meditation every day. This is something that has really helped me. I just do 5 minutes in the morning where it's not super time consuming. Sometimes I will do more, but for the most part, I do 5 minutes every day. That's a staple in my morning routine, and I highly recommend it. Deep breathing, just box breathing, visualization. I can't tell you how important that has been for me to visualize and actually see. This is something Arnold talks about a lot, and I watched his documentary recently on Netflix. I thought it was awesome, and I could relate so much to the visualization side of it. Like, he had such a strong vision, and he always talks about that. So while I'm meditating, I always visualize the life, the things that I want to create, the things that I want to do, the people I want to help. I visualize it. I see it. I try to feel it. I attach an emotion to it. And I do that during this period where I'm just sitting there with my eyes closed, doing my deep breathing drills and visualizing what I want. Next up, if you know me, you know that I'm going to say strength train at least 2 days per week. I like 2 to 4 days per week. I think that's the sweet spot is 3, but 2 to 4 days per week. Some people like to train 5 days. Do what you want. I think that if you're training and you're doing it correctly, you're not overtraining, it's going to be one of the most beneficial things for you. If you're a listener to this show, odds are you're already doing that. But I can't just end this episode without talking about strength training and the importance that has on your overall health when it comes to aging, when it comes to confidence, when it comes to just overall health and vitality. Strength training is so important for so many reasons. So that's all I'll have to say. That's all I'll say about that. I almost pulled a Forrest Gump on you guys. That's all I'll say about that today. Next up, walk 10,000 steps per day. We know that this is what, 10,000 steps per day is kind of that number where people are hitting in the blue zones. There's so many benefits as far as, of course, we know if your goal is to lose body fat, and even if it's just to maintain, keeping you lean, the extra caloric expenditure from walking 10,000 steps per day, but also the recovery benefits. This also helps you get more sunlight and spend more time outside, so it could reduce cortisol levels, but also cardiovascular health, right? Cardiovascular fitness, just walking. But walk at a good pace. Sometimes people will say, well, I walk 15,000 steps per day. But it's like, yeah, you're walking at a snail's pace because you're walking your dog and you're walking and stopping or whatever. You want to get like 10,000 focused steps in, we'll call it, per day. So you're walking 10,000 steps per day, but you're doing it at a good fast pace. Try to get your heart rate up a little bit, right? Next up, one thing that a lot of people forget. Play. Have fucking fun. Now for me, the way I play, of course, I'll play around with Gab. I'll play around with the baby now. I play with the dogs. But jiu-jitsu is a form of play for me, right? It's hard. It's challenging, of no doubt. But it is playing in a sense, right? Like, it's fun. Training is also playing for me, right? It's fun. I have a good time doing it. But you got to do shit that is fun in your life. You have to do physical activity that you actually enjoy. And I can't tell you how beneficial it is to work playfulness into your life, because you probably take yourself way too seriously and you are probably not having fun. You just go through the motions. You get up, you go to work, you come home, you have your routine, you watch TV and all that stuff, but you're not putting aside time for you to actually have fun. That should be on your calendar. That should be something that you do, if not daily, at least weekly, but have carved out time for some type of play. Next up, I talked about this is how I started the episode. I talked about journaling. Journaling is a form of therapy for me. It's a way for me to get my thoughts out of my head and onto paper. It's a form of visualization for me when I talk about the things that I want. It's also a way for me to do my reflection, which I started this episode with as well. So journaling is in my opinion, it's so important because it does all those things. It checks all of those boxes, and most people don't do it, and most people are unclear about their goals. They are unclear about the life that they want. They're unclear about who they are, where they've come from, and they kind of just live in the past, and most people have a lot of stress, and I believe that for me, journaling helped me break through a lot of those things that I was also dealing with at one point in my life. All right, so journal. And finally, do something explosive 1 to 2 times per week. That could be some type of sprint. That could be medicine ball throws. That could be jumps. I think that those things are super important for longevity because our power is one of the first things that we actually lose as we age. So keeping our nervous system sharp is super important, in my opinion, as far as the aging process goes. So we want to train those systems. So 1 to 2 days per week, we do something explosive like a jump, like a throw, like a hill sprint or flat ground sprint or bleacher sprint, something along those lines, especially if you are a weekend warrior athlete, martial artist, whatever. You want to stay sharp. You want to stay explosive. And again, it helps in the aging process. So 1 to 2 days per week, let's get something explosive in. And that is my list for you guys today. Now, I really hope that you found today's episode helpful. Hopefully, you got a lot out of it. Hopefully, you got some tips. Again, my goal is not to overwhelm you with the things that I have listed here, changing your deodorant and your soap and your lotion and this and that and your frying pans and all that stuff. But just take it one thing at a time. All right, cool. I cook with some nonstick bullshit frying pan. I'm going to go get a cast iron pan or a stainless steel pan. Do that. Okay, cool. Check that box. All right, I've been drinking out of my Brita water filter for X amount of time. I need a new filtration system. I'm going to get the reverse osmosis system either installed or I'll get a counter one. Perfect. That's the next thing. And then you just build upon it. Little by little, you start adding these things in. But save this episode, share it with somebody who you think it can help. And if you did like this episode, you found it helpful, if you could take a second and leave a review, that would truly mean the world to me. Just go head over to iTunes, write a quick review, or leave a 5-star, just press the 5-star button. Either one really helps us out because it helps us grow the show. It helps us get more exposure. So I would really appreciate that. And honestly, you're doing some good, a good service for somebody else out there who may come across the show because you take the time to leave that review. So with that said, I appreciate you taking the time to listen and tune in today. I'm excited to be back. I'm pumped. My life has gotten better since CJ has come into the world, and who knows, maybe sooner or later we'll get him as a special guest referee on one of these shows. But anyway, oh, and by the way, guys, we're going to convert a lot of so we always record these videos. I have not done a good enough job of getting them onto YouTube, but these will be on YouTube in the very near future. And so if you don't like just listening and you want to get a visual, you want to look at me, look at this face up here and my big mouth yapping away at you guys. If you want to get a visual, you head over to YouTube and we're going to have these videos posted up for you so you can watch it there as well. So with that being said, guys, I love and appreciate you. Thank you again for listening, and I will catch you next week on another episode of the Iron Life Podcast. Peace.